Right. Hello and welcome. So it's about 9 o'clock at the moment, Saturday night.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
so we've had how long? Probably about 3 or 4 hours to reflect. But I thought just to refresh, just to keep the feelings fresh, I'd go through a few stats that have now come out since the game's gone through. So,
Exciting.
yeah, you're going to really love this. We've now got 1 point in the last 6 games that we've played. Everton hadn't won away from home since March, but now have broken that against us. It's the first time since 1998 in which we've lost 4 home games in a row. We're now in the same points position that we were under Hughes at this point. And the last 5 goals have come from only 2 players, which are Ward-Prowse and Danny Ings. So just a few of the issues that we're facing at the moment, going through those stats. Thoughts, guys? So without going. Oh, wait, have we frozen?
Without crying.
Yeah. Yeah. Without either going into massive rants or just breaking down completely. What can we take from that?
Well, I think it's very difficult to take a positive from the game, especially with how dire the first half was. The first half was just pathetic, really. No runners off the ball, no creativity.
Yeah.
When Jack Stevens is your most creative player on the pitch, that's when you've got a little bit of a problem.
Yeah. Just to clarify, Mikey, you went to the game, right?
I was at the game.
Listen, watch?
No, I was at Mansfield versus Bromley, which is an equally exciting fixture.
Okay, but you still got to see the overall impression of the game. I
looked at the score at half time, 60 minutes through, and then full time, and then I watched the highlights when I got back as well. The 2-minute 57-second Sky Sports highlights.
Yeah, I listened to it. I was doing a bit of shopping, going around Asda while listening to it. Dave Merrington, probably the angriest I've heard him in a long, long time, and I'm not joking. Like proper shouting down the mic, going that when Ralph was it his final substitution, took off Redmond for.
No, he bought off Armstrong for Obafemi.
Yeah, that's
it. 50th minute.
Yeah,
and it's a bit like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah, but Dave Merrington was going. I don't know if you could hear him from inside the stadium, but up in the commentary box, he was going absolutely crazy. He was saying that Ralph's lost the plot and things like that. He was honestly properly mad about it, saying that it's not attacking. You've got to do the best you can. In his beautiful northern voice, basically going on about how it's so negative and should be trying to, push Everton in, get that final goal and stuff like that.
I wouldn't call it negative. I would call it just crazy what he did, because it just became a complete and utter mess on the pitch, because we started in a 3-4-3.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Go chronologically. We'll break it from the start.
We started in a 3-4-3. We had Armstrong playing as a right wing back. We had Cedric playing as a left wing back. We had Romeu and Ward-Prowse playing as 2 defensive midfielders, and we just sort of had Gineppo, Redmond, and Ings playing as 3 strikers. We didn't have a midfield, and that's the reason why we created nothing.
Yeah.
Because we just had 2 central midfielders sitting, 3 players up the pitch, and then 2 players out wide who didn't know what they were doing because they're not naturals there. And I felt really sorry for Stuart Armstrong, because I thought he did.
God, yeah, I saw that. I was thinking, Stuart
out there.
Do you know what it seems like? It seems like Ralph is, and I know this isn't the case, but it's almost what it seems like. It's like if you have a good performance, you have to get in the team. It's like he's searching for a player that shows some sort of willingness, and he thinks, well, I'd rather play. I think that's what I think. I think the determination of a player sticks so much in with Ralph that he'd rather put a determined player at right back in a completely unnatural position than put a player that is not bothered in that position. Like he'd rather stick Armstrong just because he's had a good couple of run of games. Would rather put him at right wing back rather than putting. I mean, surely a centre back.
Was Valerie fit?
Valerie was fit and on the bench.
Yeah. So he should have went right wing back.
Exactly. I know Valerie's low on confidence, but surely he's got to be a better option than a centre attacking midfielder playing right wing back.
Basically, Stuart Armstrong would do a job up front, so I don't know why he's doing a job at right wing back.
It's not James Milner.
And the Scottish James Milner. That's the title you want. And then progressed on to half time. Boufal comes on for Cedric, which was weird.
Yeah.
He then goes left. So we're currently playing an attacking midfielder at right wing back. Yeah. And instead of switching the right back to his natural position and then dropping Gineppo back, we then play Boufal at left wing, Gineppo at left wing back, and Armstrong at right wing back. So basically, we probably couldn't have gone more attacking unless we played Obafemi at centre back. We basically had all of our attacking.
But three centre backs in defence.
But still 3 centre backs.
It's just crazy. I mean, I said it to you guys in our preview that we did. When was it? Thursday, which released Friday. If you want to go and check that out, you're more than welcome to. But on there, we talked about. It was probably about half an hour in. We talked about what we wanted to see from the Everton game, and my takeaways from the Man City game was, okay, we can show grit and we can play well defensively against the big teams, which I had no qualms with before really going into the City game. It was more the fact at home where it's highlighted, bringing the game to an opponent that we should really be capitalising on. I think that's the difference, capitalising when we can. I think Ralph's system's brilliant for being the underdogs and getting results out of being the underdogs, but it more comes down to the fact that you should really beat the smaller teams when you can. And like I read at the stats at the start, Everton not winning away from home since March. You should really think, is there a better opportunity to put 4 at the back? And I'll say it time and time again. Putting attacking pressure relieves your defence. I mean, if we just almost assume the fact that we've got a bad defence and that there's going to be a goal conceded, we might as well just stick 2 in the back of the net and try and create a lifeline before. I know it's a tall ask, but there's a lot more players in that team that can score goals, and there's teams there's players that can defend well. I think that's what it comes down to. We've got quite an attacking squad, and we just don't have a solid defence. So let's try and use what we've got, put 4 at the back, and try and get a couple of goals, and try and bring a game to someone rather than waiting for the inevitable with 5 at the back. It just annoys me. I see it every time, but 5 at the back, I just know it's not going to go well.
Well, I think the problem is with this solid defence is that, so would you say that over the past decade, probably the most solid defence we had was either Bertrand, Alderweireld, Fonte, Klein, or Bertrand, Van Dijk, Fonte, Cedric. Those were probably the 2 most solid ones under Koeman.
Yeah.
But the thing is with those is that we also had very good attackers as well to compensate. So throughout the game, we would keep the ball or keep attacking, and the ball would be on the opposition's half. At the moment, we have no outlet up top. We have no creative play. In that first half, we had no creative players. Everyone was sitting back. There was no movement. So the problem is with that is that we were probably only conceding 4 or 5 chances a game when it was under Koeman. Now we're conceding 20, 30. There's going to be more goals conceded, even if we still had Van Dijk and Fonte at the back. There's going to be more goals conceded because we just can't keep the ball.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. We're putting so much pressure and reliance on our defence that is not as strong 100%. As it has been, and they will not keep everything out. So it's not always their fault.
Because you know what it is, don't you? It's a game of attackers v defenders. Yeah. But how does that work? You do it in a training ground because there's no attacking outlet, and it means the attack can just go and go and go and go. But eventually, at some point, that defence will crack and it will go in the back of the net.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you should have a balance. And if you want to play slightly more defensively, you need to have at least an outlet, which is normally a big bloke up front that holds it up and waits for his team to get up with him and break fast. But if you're even going to have, we're quite excited to see Stuart Armstrong come into the team to be an attacking player. Hits a good strike for Ward-Prowse to follow up and score from. But now he's playing right wing back in a position he's never played before. It's completely different to what we're expecting, and I do feel genuinely worried that if we're not, the best suited that our style goes for is to lose valiantly against a big team. That's the best we've seen probably this season, really, isn't it? We've seen a couple of good performances, but it's basically valiantly losing. If that's the best we've got, I think we are in real trouble. I think the team is, and if you can excuse the big rant coming on here, but brace yourself. I think we said it. We said it after the Leicester game that this team has been milked and stripped of anything worth of value from it, and basically been pulled apart to refund and keep this cycle of trying to bring in good players. But it is stopped. We've got a board and owner which are saying what was the pig analogy? Can someone remind me of that Gal came out and said in the interview?
He's not gonna milk the club. Like, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, he said he's not gonna.
It was something to do that he wasn't.
It wasn't milking a pig.
The club with money.
It was definitely a pig, wasn't it? And he was going to fatten the pig, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was the analogy.
And sold off. The pig. He was just I'm sorry, but not only is he starving it, he's cutting bits off it and selling it to anybody who's interested, and leaving a dead, withered thing in its place that's slowly sinking. And the fact is that any players or positivity we had around that squad are basically being torn to shreds, and most likely a manager's going to come under fault for it, but until there's major restructures in the club, I can only really see a very negative future for this club, unfortunately.
It is difficult, to be fair, but I do look at Mr. Gowl. I do think a lot of the times, and I'm probably one of the only people that not back him, but I can understand where he's coming from. It's like, we don't want to be someone that just chucks a ridiculous amount of money because if it doesn't work, we're in a bad position. Like, he is trying to keep us a sustainable club, and I know all the teams around us are investing a lot of money. And I don't think it's Mr. Gale's fault. I think it's more about our recruitment team that aren't recruiting the right players. I think it's not as much as him not investing. I think it's us just not bringing in the right players.
That would be the point that I would put as well. Gale's invested money. Like, he spent 20 million on Danny Ings. He's bought in. It was like 30 million combined for Adams and Hunepo as well. So he spent 50 million this transfer window. It's probably more than we can say about the previous ones, or similar to the previous ones. So it's not that he's not investing. It's just the fact that we're not finding those players anymore. And maybe it is to do with the fact that Gal doesn't want to spend the ridiculous amount of money on the players. But it's like the recruitment team, like Shay Adams, like, he's not a Premier League quality striker at the moment.
No.
Musa Hunepo, probably he's had one or two moments of magic, but today he was not a Premier League quality player. Danny Ings has been probably the best signing over the last 4 years or so.
Yeah.
That we can actually say that he's been successful. A lot of the signings have been through the waste of money of the board and like the recruitment team getting it wrong. Like, we're not bringing in Premier League quality players. We're bringing in people that can be Premier League quality players.
But I think as well, there's a lot of, whenever we've restructured the team or brought in players, there's always been a core that people can cut in and out of. And the fact that, I think one major turning point was the fact that we let Jose Fonte leave. Could have come to be a club hero, but the fact we let him go after the Euros, and whether that was the right decision or not, it's not for me to say, but the fact is that he left. He went to, was it West Ham?
West Ham, yeah.
West Ham. Fell out of favour in West Ham. And then went off to...
He's at Lille.
He's at Lille now, and he's probably playing...
Champions League.
He's playing Champions League under a fairly decent side. But yeah, the fact is that he's a player that we built around, had faith in, and his performances were probably not due to his talent, because he was probably at that age on the decline. It was more the fact that he was comfortable and was a commander in that defence. But we stripped that for, how much did he go to West Ham for? Was it?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I don't know, because it might have been that we didn't give him a contract and then he just went to West Ham.
No, he wasn't happy with the fact that he wasn't playing in Europe. He'd been with the club since League One, and he wasn't happy that he wasn't given his chance in Europe to prove himself.
Yeah.
And there was also like links and rumours with Manchester United as
I
well.
remember that.
So
It was
kept
it was
building up, and then he went to West Ham instead because he
yeah.
handed in his transfer
I'll tell you what
request.
it was,
Big
and
fuss.
I was talking to my
And
dad
he
about
went for
this.
£8 million.
£8 million.
West
There you
Ham.
go. Yeah, so it was. I think it was in January, and it was a couple of weeks before we played Man United. And Jose Mourinho, Jose Mourinho out of nowhere plucks out the idea that he wants to buy Jose Fonte, and so gets Jose Fonte unsettled. He's out of the team by the time we play him at Man United. Can't remember what the result is, but he ended up going to West Ham. And we always argue that we need a new centre back. We've got new centre backs, young centre backs that need to learn the trade and learn the Premier League. But the fact is that we haven't bought a experienced centre back and a person that they can lead and learn off. Because at the moment we've got probably the most experienced is Yoshida, but is he really the one to try and teach the newcomers the craft of the Premier League when he's arguably still shaky and prone to mistakes himself?
Well, you look at the role that Yoshida was actually brought in for. He came in like first season we were in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And he was brought in as a backup to Fonte.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even supposed to be first team.
No.
And now he is arguably our most experienced and probably one of our better centre-backs.
Yeah, our most senior centre-backs. And that's the thing. We had these brilliant centre-backs come in and out, and you look at Alderweireld, Lovren on brilliant form when he was here, Van Dijk, but they all learnt from Fonte. He was the captain, he was the leader in there, and slowly our team has been stripped apart. And I think the difference is every team above us has either got a set of quality star players that we used to have or a core squad like we used to have. You look at a team like Burnley, they've got no particular real bright sparks in that team. No one that you can think immediately is going to go to the top 6 there. But because they've played together for so long under a consistent manager and get decent performances, they know their limits. They aim for top 10 every year. But the fact is they've had a little Europe run, they've got a strong team, and that core has pretty much stayed the same, or it's effectively replaced, and they stay stable every year. Whereas the fact is you think Burnley haven't spent massively. You look at some of their signings, and you could kind of think they're not really that great.
Well less than us.
Yeah, well less than us. But it's just the way it's run. I generally don't know if there's much interest from the actual chairman footballing wise, because I know Katrina wasn't invested in football as much as her dad was. Really, we didn't really see that passion coming across. She was quite happy to move the club on to a Chinese owner. I think the most we've seen out of him was like a 5-second video saying "We march on."
He came to the Man United game when he first joined, and then
he got a little clap. Yeah, I haven't seen him again. I'm kind of seeing it as our time's coming up in the Premier League now. I can't really see, unless there's a major change somewhere or sometime or something happens. I don't know what it's going to be, but I can kind of see our little run in the Premier League coming to an end, and us doing what Saints do, kind of bouncing between, dropping up and down, and hopefully there'll be another time again which will come up. But unless there's a big change of something substantial, whether that's manager, player, board, owner, whatever, I think at our current rate, I can't see us really sustaining the Premier League. Even if it's not this season, it could be a couple more. I really don't see many positives coming across. That's what's worrying me.
Well, there were positives to take from the game. The reaction after half-time, Bufal's introduction was very positive, making the assist, and it was the Bufal that you like to watch. He would take it past a couple of players, and then he would pass it off to someone. He was actually productive with the ball instead of taking it away from the team. Ward-Prowse's set-piece delivery was really good today as well. It's a shame that the Jordan Pickford save kept out the free kick, which was really good. And overall, the defence, even though we conceded so many shots, we didn't look overall too jadey. There were moments where, like, some clearances just didn't go, or we just couldn't get the ball out, or like a man was unmarked. But it was better than it had been this season. So not great, but it's better than what it has been. But like, as soon as that second goal went in, heads dropped, and we never looked like we were going to get back into it.
That's the thing. I think the morale's so low at the moment that I don't think we have the confidence to go forward the back and put some more bodies in the midfield. So we're kind of stuck in a loop at the moment, aren't we?
I think the problem was today was that we had such defensively minded players. Ward-Prowse comes across as this attacking talent who can play the through balls, had great technical ability, can see a pass. He can't do that. He's not. He's an engine in that midfield. He is a defensive midfielder now because he doesn't have the vision to pick out that pass from attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
So we had 3 defenders and 2 defensive midfielders. We had no attacking outlet whatsoever. I would have really liked to see Romeu been dropped today, play Armstrong in a more central role, because I don't think we need Romeu. If we got 3 at the back, what's the point in Romeu being there?
Yeah.
So, because we've already got one more centrally in that defence as a defending player, so what's the point in playing Romeu there? I'd love to see
crazy
Armstrong
idea.
tuck in.
Put 4 at the back and keep Romeu in front of the defence. It's pretty much the same idea, isn't it, really?
I don't think, if we play 3 at the back, I don't think we need Romeu in the midfield. If we play 4, we do need Romeu in the midfield.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Did Højbjerg and
Bayern Munich.
There you go, got in there eventually. And these players that we've got in, they're not used to playing 5 at the back. They're used to playing 4. They're used to the players being comfortable on the ball. I think because confidence is so cripplingly low, we're kind of reducing every player we've got to their lowest, to get their lowest basic performance out of them as possible. And we're not really, it's like the least expressive, most trained team you can possibly get out to try and salvage points out, when really you'd hope with those players and the form that we had near the end of the season last year, you should be able to. And pre-season, you look at pre-season, there was a clear positive sign there. Every pre-season game, we were probably learning the 4-2-2, but we've had to revert to 5 at the back straight away because we got basically battered against Burnley and realised we clearly, maybe it's an overcorrection that we kind of realised it is still early on the season, but there's not as many positives to bring out. We're not seeing the attacking. I mean, no shots in the first half at all at home.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy.
You're not seeing the defensive side of it. You're not seeing the attacking side of it either. There's no positives there. At least if you put 3 at the back and we drew a game 0-0, there'd be something you can take to that and add to the table. If you lost, I don't know, 3-2, but still got 2 goals on the sheet, and you think we were generally outplayed that game and we forced them to play better than us, you could take that. But the fact is we are playing extremely defensive, still conceding goals, and not creating a proper amount of chances to either draw or outscore the opponents. It's just not there. There's neither side is there.
They're not even good goals as well.
No.
You look at the 2 goals that we conceded today. One was Bednarek not marking, which is ridiculous for a centre-back to not mark someone. And I think that's another mistake Bednarek made in another game that he will not be dropped for.
No.
Like, he made a few as well. There were really poor clearances, missed headers, not tracking men. And I'd argue that the second goal was also Bednarek's fault. Because you've got 3 centre-back.
That's what I thought.
He hasn't looked over his shoulder. He's not seen Richarlison there. I would say Armstrong's partially to blame, because as a right wing back, you're supposed to be marking the winger.
Yeah.
But at that point, we're attacking. We're on top. And Bednarek has to look over his shoulder and see a man there. And it seems like we've reverted back to 2 years ago, where we weren't marking players from crosses and they were just scoring from crosses because there was no one there to mark them.
Yeah.
And it's generally depressing just to see like us go in a loop of like we'll look like we can actually win a game and then it will just crash down again because of a silly error and a stupid mistake.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous because I think there was a moment during the game where a fan behind me, Bednarek missed a header and that allowed, I think, Richarlison to run in behind. And the guy behind me go, Stevens. But Stevens is nowhere near.
God.
And Bednarek's the one making the mistake, and they're still blaming Stevens.
Yeah.
And it's horrendous the fact that Bednarek can make mistake on mistake and mistake and mistake.
I don't even know what it is anymore.
Best centre back at the club.
I thought when it went on the Twitter rounds that he's made the most amount of individual errors in Europe or something. I thought that would slightly shift the agenda, and people would go, "Well, hang on, let's actually look at him." But because he made a couple of blocks last year. I mean, like, Romeu and Vestergaard have put their bodies on the line more this year, but that's still not being focused on. It's Bednarek's been just given as much leeway as possible. And I've always gone on the opinion that if a player is playing at a Premier League club, he has quality to set that league alight, because otherwise he wouldn't be there. There's no real, probably after, apart from probably Korea, because that was an extreme panic buy, most of the players we've signed had the potential to be really good in the league. I think we haven't, as much as our recruitment hasn't come off particularly well, it's not stupid transfers, is it? On theory, on paper, they should really make sense. And before their actual transfer
that we've brought in has been like
it's
that. It's looked for a system to try and replace another player, and that's what we tried to do over a cycle.
Yeah, and you look
can
at
see the logic behind it. It's just not.
And you look at, we've got two different board of directors now doing different transfers, and you look at it and you think, I know it's a bit crude, but you think, right, we're conceding too many headers. Let's go out on Europe and buy one of the best. They've obviously got their data analyzers who look at it and say, right, this bloke from this team has got this. I mean, before we saw Vestergaard, we were looking at, look, he's a powerhouse, and look at his heading challenges won. Like, I know, Mikey, you make the joke that we just went and bought the tallest centre back we could find, but the truth was, in his league before we bought him, he had a good free kick on him. We saw that, thought, right, that's great, one for the fans. He's got a brilliant heading. What is it, like an aerial duel one? Like, brilliant at that, right? Buy him, got him for 17 million. Everyone was loving it because he looks like Thor and he smacks free kicks and winks at the camera on GIFs for Twitter or whatever.
And he scored the most goals as a centre back since like one of the seasons.
Yeah,
8
and
like
everyone was saying he'd be brilliant at corners because we don't score from corners. Okay, great. On paper, that looks brilliant.
He's also an incredibly experienced centre back for his age. He's played top flight football in the Bundesliga and the Premier League for the last 8 years. He's been doing since he was 18.
Yeah,
he's an incredibly experienced centre back, and I've got no doubt that he's a quality centre back. But like at the moment, he has no confidence.
No, and I think there's something behind the scenes where you're probably getting coached by two goalkeepers. You're looking at it and going, Kelvin Davis and that Dave Watson are coaching me. The other bloke that's been brought in for Ralph, who, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't really have that much impact with Ralph. I assume he's probably just a little bit of a yes man and goes along with what Ralph says. Whereas I think Danny Roll probably challenged Ralph and moved some things around. And who else is there? Who else is actually advancing these players forwards? And which players out of the last 3 or 4 years have we really seen a long-term progression in? That they've been at the club. We haven't seen it. We've just gone for, instead of trying to improve the players we've got, we've just continuously, year after year, thought that the players we brought in are just clearly not good enough and they should be replaced. When really we've seen players go out on loan, and it's almost surprising that they're doing well because they're probably being retaught the basics. Going to Celtic, realising, Fraser Forster's probably got a decent goalkeeping coach up there, and he's remembered the little tips that have fallen off at the 4 years at the club.
It's not only that as well. It's the confidence that the fans bring as well. Forster left that club an absolute hero, and he's come back and he's got the same form that he left.
Yeah,
because he's back. He's back there. He's playing well. He doesn't have a toxic atmosphere to walk onto the pitch.
Oh, Mikey, don't blame the fans. The Twitter timeline doesn't like it.
No, but even someone like Elyounoussi, who's gone to Celtic and shouldn't really like. There's no likelihood that he will do well there. He's just playing for another team. But because he's getting regular game time, because he's probably playing under a good set of players on good confidence, he can be expressive and show that reason that we signed him. But at the moment, the amount of crippling low confidence and frankly the lack of basics that are being played in our team, our players are just the quality players that we thought we've brought in are just wilting. No, I just don't think there's any progression going on behind the scenes.
Do you think Ralph has lost the dressing room?
No, I wouldn't say that because of the reaction from the second half. I wouldn't say he's lost it because of how positive we were coming out. But
and do you know what it is? I think you look at. Sorry to cut you off, Mike, but the first 20 minutes we always start well. Second half we always start well because Ralph's probably got in there, got them motivated, and their confidence has started and come through. But because we conceded so early, the confidence just got cut straight off, and we had a tough second half. Second part of the first half, if that makes sense. And then he's got in second half, reassured them, told them the basics, pass to the people in the red and white. And and then, they have a decent start. We get a goal. Oh, hey, there we go. Put it in the onion bag. And then we make simple mistakes. Yeah. Have you not heard that before? No? Oh, God, that's my dad rubbing off me. That's like a real dad phrase. Put it in the old onion bag. Yeah. There you go. But yeah, I just think they lose their focus, or they lose their drive, or their lack of coaching comes in, and surely if they're doing that on the training ground, you should get slated for not marking. But whether that's not being picked up in training, surely there's got to be some sort of, like yourself, Mike, some sports scientist or data analyst who's looking at the videos and saying, right, why is he not marking anyone? Why are you not checking your shoulder? And whether it comes down to, is that not being picked up, or are the players just not absorbing that? I don't know. Where's it falling down? We don't know. I can't go in there with a clipboard and try and poke around and see what's going on and what's going wrong. Go, right, it's you. You're the reason. I can't do that. We're only speculating. That's all we're doing. But we can only take our best guess on what we're seeing, and that's the frustration that we get. Because no one's going to put their hand up and say it's me. I'm the reason this club's going to the ban. We don't know. We're only speculating. That's the best we can.
That's the thing. Like I said after the Manchester City game, yes, we had a good game against them, but it's about carrying it on. And I know it's only one game since, but sadly, what I said seems to have maybe come true. Sadly, in the fact that we didn't show that same level as we did against Manchester City, and that my real frustration is the amount of fans after the Manchester City game that said on Twitter, all these people questioning Ralph, it's an absolute disgrace. Yeah. And the exact same people now that are saying anyone that thinks Hasenhüttl should stay is an idiot. And that's one thing that always will really frustrate me. People on Twitter know they are saying Ralph out, Ralph it, Ralph that. And I say they're also the same people that said people got to keep patience. You've got to, if you're going to stick with it, you've got to stick with it more than a week after you said, let's stick with it. It's only one performance, and I know it wasn't a very good one. And I'm doubting because I don't know what I would do if I was the board. I'd probably stick with him, but once again, you're never sure after quite obvious discontent and a lack of change in terms of the formation during the game or the changes when the changes were made and etc. etc. But I've stayed quiet most of it, and it took me so long, as you pointed out when I arrived in the call, to get here, because I knew if I came straight away I'd snap, just because looking at the Twitter timeline is very frustrating.
Yeah, and I think Twitter highlights the extreme it's almost like a scale, and with reasonable discussion you'd have down the pub or talking to someone, it's probably about here. If you imagine it on my little camera, it's probably about here. But on Twitter, you've got very angry people who've got very fast thumbs. So what they do is they're either over here or they're either over here, and then these two have a go at each other, and you have a lot of that, a lot of swear words, a lot of angry people on Twitter, because you have the
extreme
they're
people
very they're very positive and they're very negative.
We don't. Well, I don't, and I haven't seen either of you tweet, because we're not in the middle. I'm not saying we're in the middle ground, but we're not very angry fans or very very happy fans, or we're not in one of those extreme categories. So it's the ones that have that discontent are the loudest, because we're not sat on the fence, but because we're not. We've got our own podcast, so I guess we are loudmouths with our opinion. But I mean, on Twitter, because we're not, it makes. But that's what interests me. It'll interest me the actual, like, if there was a actual percentage of fans wanting Ralph in or want him out, because it looks like lots of people are Ralph out, but that just might be because Twitter is the loudest for people that aren't happy with a situation.
Yeah,
rather than the ones
because I think every fan is just as passionate as each other on that pitch. Not on that pitch, in that stadium.
The stands, yeah.
But it's how concentrated that passion, where that passion comes out, whether that's ruining your... For me, it's normally, like this evening, it just really drops my mood, and we'll talk about it on here a couple of hours after. And if we did this 10 minutes after the game, it probably be a completely different podcast and have to mark it as explicit. But a lot of people, if they do feel that intense anger, how easy is it? Within 30 seconds, you can tell that Ralph needs to go, and the board can go and stick something where the something doesn't shine. It's so easy now, and that, I don't know if you've got it. If you thought, right, I'm going to put it on, and you can do it on the hashtag SaintsFC, so everyone's looking at it, and I've done it a couple of times where I've typed something and I've thought,
No.
You look at, imagine if Twitter just had once you press like send, it took 5 minutes for it to actually send instead of instantaneously. You'd probably not actually send out as much tweets as you do, because that feeling you have right at that point compared to half an hour on reflection can be completely different. And the fact that stays on the internet forever, and probably somewhere along the line will get picked up or force a reaction, like you said, Tiz, if you saw it and we did it straight after the match and slagged it off, and people listened to this and started slagging off, it would slowly butterfly effect to a completely different thing. And it's just so easy now to vent your frustrations on something that will stay there forever. It's just a completely different world now. Yeah.
I saw someone, well, I know it was, but I'm not going to say because people probably know. Someone saying that, he kept on tweeting up Ralph out and then called him a dinosaur. And I was like, do you know what the definition of being a dinosaur manager is? Ralph's not succeeding at this current stage, but the definition of a dinosaur manager is to go through old tactics that back 5-10 years ago, like a Pardew, like an Allardyce. Allardyce would probably be successful. That's a different story. I don't see Alan Pardew putting an attacking midfielder at right wing back or a right back at left back. That's not the definition of a managerial dinosaur. Fans just seem to try and say just get anything out there that they can to try and show their displeasure. And it's just it does sound like a very happy clapper thing to say, but they just need to calm it down a bit, give it 10 minutes, and actually think about what they're going to tweet before just writing "Go out, Ralph out, everyone just leave out." You need to sack everyone, bring new people in. I don't care how much money it costs. You need to sack everyone, bring in a new squad, new player, new coaches. It's like just,
that's the thing as well. Like, you don't actually know how long those tweets stay up for. If you have a look 6 days later, will that still be up, or will they realise it themselves and delete it? Will it actually, will it stay there, or will they delete it themselves? But you're not going to search about Gow out next Thursday, are you? Probably not. But you're going to look at it straight after the game where everyone's feeling just as passionate as you. I think everyone calls off, and by the time they call off, they might realise, right, that's quite an unreasonable tweet. Everyone that looks at my account is probably going to see that. And if it's not reasoned, and if they don't have the same passion that they had when they first sent it, they probably will delete it or hide it or whatever. But that's defeated the object, because you've seen it, everyone else has seen it at their point when they're most angry, and whereas it's caused most effect. And
as much as that's true, the same people tweet the same stuff every week.
Okay. Well, you need to stop following on Twitter then, Tiz.
No, it's right. It's just it never normally frustrates me, but it's just today that it's got to me, because the amount of people that have gone over the previous point from last week. It's just due to the fact that they just change so quickly. That's the problem. They don't have that slow progression.
At the moment, though, is that it is about 5 games. You look at the run that Solskjaer went on. You look at Emre last year, 22 games unbeaten. One of the longest runs Arsenal's had of unbeaten games, and then they go and not get Europe, and then all of a sudden they want him out. And it's like that cycle of like yearly manager sackings will happen easily. Like Swansea had 3 managers when they went down. It is just part of the modern game now, where fans react in a split second because they know how important some results are. But if you not knowing anything, we could go the next 5-6 games unbeaten. It doesn't look like it.
It's a possibility,
but we could go the next 6 games unbeaten, and all of a sudden Ralph's the greatest manager in the world again. Yeah. So it is just a constant cycle of, and also most fans don't go every week. I don't go every week. Like away games, I don't go to them, so I don't see the performance. I listen to Dave Merrington and Ellen Blackmore on the radio, so my opinions are their opinions.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why it just sort of, you can cycle so quickly, because a fan might be living in a different country, and the only way that they actually get information is from their mate who goes to the games.
Yeah.
And like that information, he could get that information wrong, and then that's another fan unhappy.
Yeah.
So it is people's opinions change really quickly, because football's just such a short-term business now.
Mm-hmm. True.
I remember. I think it was a year or two ago. I had an argument with someone on Twitter when I was a bit louder on Twitter than I am now. Still, no one cared about my opinion. I just said it anyway. I said to him, it was something like, "You can't have such a deep analytical opinion because you don't watch every single game every single time. Whereas I go to the home. I said, because I go to the home games, I've got a more deep view of what that." And he absolutely kicked off about it. But now I don't go to home or away games. Well, I go when I can. But I'm in the exact same thing. I've rarely talked about today's performance because I've seen 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Yeah. It's good seeing the goals and the attacks, but it's all about the whole 90 minutes. That's why I've let Mikey talk about it and you talk about it, because you watched it. I was sat watching a game that had no shots on target until the 60th minute today, so I can't really talk about the Southampton game whatsoever. In that, apart from that 2 minute 57 second worth of clips that I saw.
But that's the thing, when you're watching it on TV, you only get the highlighted picture that's put on the screen. When you're watching it in person, you're not stupid when you're watching it. You can see, if you can have a look, because normally where you're looking at the moment, you can see the whole team and what they're looking. You can see whose heads are going down, who's shouting at whoever. All it takes is, I don't know if you saw it, there was a Rio Ferdinand clip that was going around. It's a tenuous link, but go with it on YouTube. He was analysing Man United versus Barcelona in the final. If you can, watch it, because it's an absolute amazing clip. A world-class centre-back analysing his own game. As a football fan, any football fan will enjoy that. And he's saying that Vidic, at point one they just conceded, shouted at, was it Evra, who went out of position? Yeah. So then for the second goal, Evra didn't actually do the right thing, which was to come out of his position and close the ball down. The player has a free open shot and scores. All it takes is one person to kick off about you in their frustration, and it can completely mess with your thinking. Yeah, and things like that you may see in the game, or see, I don't know, Ralph on his own. I remember against the Leicester game, people saying Ralph just stood up there on their own, not once as an assistant or a coach come over to him and said their thoughts. something that doesn't usually get picked up by TV or sometimes goes under the radar on radio. I think when you do see it in person, it's a completely different thing to.
But today it was it was very easy to see that players just had no confidence on the ball.
Yeah.
Like, Jack Stevens would be pretty much 10 yards away from the halfway line and stood there. No one moved for it. The only pass that they could really play was to Romeo or Ward-Prowse, and then they would play it straight back. If there was space behind them, no one would shout at them to turn on the football, but no one would communicate to them that they could turn and run. So they just played it back. And then we were stuck in a cycle of it basically being pinged between our centre-backs and our defensive midfielders.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then
if you're so scared of...
Ings was, like, poor today. He might have got on the score sheet, but anyone could have scored that goal. He was 2 yards out. Well, apart from me.
Right time, right place, though, to be fair.
And
he's made the movement.
He did. The movement was good, and the fact that he got onto it was good. But the amount of times where he could have dropped short and made another option, then he didn't. He just stood next to the centre-back. Yeah. And Jack Stevens, I remember the one occasion, Jack Stevens played really good ball between the midfielders into Danny Ings' feet. Yeah. And he was not set at all. He was not ready for it. And because he just languished up there. He didn't look bothered at all. Yeah. And that's really worrying to see from a man who should be in the hottest form of his life. Like, he scored 5 in 12, and his morale's that low that he can't even be bothered to look for a pass or look to receive a pass. Yeah,
it's worrying. But what I'll do now is we'll cover it Thursday, release Friday, ready for Saturday. Who's our next opponent? Oh, we've got an international break, which Harry's a personal favourite of, aren't you, Tiz? You can't be a football fan if you enjoy it. Go on, give us the quote. What's the quote?
I just said I can't even remember.
We'll give a context.
You're a football fan if you like the international break.
So Tizard had about a year on Twitter where he was he was kind of a controversial opinion Twitter page where he would just put a page and just get as many bites as possible. But I generally don't think you were doing it on purpose, were you, Tiz? You were giving your actual opinion.
Only if it was Liverpool fans, but
and winding up a lot of people. Which was brilliant for me to see. It was basically like a Twitter version of TalkSport. I could just watch it and go, "Oh my god, it's kicking off, boys!" Read, but yeah, the passive aggression that's coming off that Twitter page. But yeah, anyway, Tiz is looking forward to the international break.
I can't wait.
I was thinking maybe. I mean, I don't know how much time you have on your hands with uni, but another quiz, could generate a quiz.
That's a fair point, actually.
Yeah, go on then.
All right. Well, not right now.
Yeah, no. All right, yeah. Do you reckon you could do a quiz week?
Quiz special.
That's
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we can have it like a super quiz.
I'll bust one out.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, sure. And then who have we got after the international break?
Arsenal away from home, and then Watford and Norwich back-to-back at St Mary's.
I saw a tweet today saying that if Ralph doesn't get anything away at Arsenal, then he has to be sacked before a double 6-pointer. And it's like, well, you're asking a little bit there because Arsenal are very strong at home.
Only if Sam Allardyce is the man that comes in. That's my...
I think we could hire Sam Allardyce as an assistant manager. Do you think he would take that?
I bet he'd love that.
The thing is, it would be just Saints' luck for Arsenal to have a new manager by the time we play them, wouldn't it? It would just be our luck, the fact that we'd play Leicester on the, like Mikey said on last week's episode, the fact that every time we've played someone, there's always been a big event. Mike, you said the point, so you know it much better than me. What was the... we played
Leicester with the helicopter crash anniversary. Mm-hmm. It was Everton with the Gomez leg break. Man City with the 100 points. Mm-hmm. Like, we've had multiple.
Yeah, and you think we played Man United just before they had that really horrible run. Like, we played them just before it started, and then everyone said, "Oh, we should have won that." Really, looking at their form, we played Tottenham when they were in a bad run of form. People said we should have picked points up against there. And now we're probably going to play Arsenal, which, looking like it, is going to be under a different manager, because I think the Arsenal fans
have... The only positive that it would be is if Thierry Henry got it.
Apparently Arsenal can't afford to sack him, though, which I don't think is true, but apparently that's what the That's what some people are saying.
No, it's not that they can't afford him. They're not willing to pay the money to sack him.
Yeah.
That's
all right. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what will happen there. But yeah, I don't mind if Emery's still the manager by the time we have to play them. But I think heading into an international break, I don't see a better opportunity for them to change the manager if they were going to do it. If they're going to stick by him, then yeah, fair enough. But if they wanted to change it around, you'd probably say now is the best time, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, right, so we're bordering on 50 minutes. Any other final thoughts, guys? Or
I can't think of anything that we haven't covered.
No. It's been more of a ranty one instead of a kind of formulaic one.
James Beattie was there today. So,
nice.
Yeah.
So was my dad. Hey.
2 different levels there, Tiz. More like
Lloyd is amazing.
Sorry, my dad won awards for his side when he was in his prime.
Oh, right, okay, fair play.
Yeah.
There you go, fun fact. So on that,
Door of Southampton.
There we go. Yeah. So on that,
not awards, just
interesting note. On that positive, I guess.
Gratitude.
It's always nice to end on a positive, isn't it?
Yes.
Thinking about Harry's dad. Where did he play, Tiz?
He played as a centre back for the Kestrels, and he got player of the season in a few seasons.
Rising up like a salmon. Was he no nonsense, or was he like a?
I think so. But
Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
He was the innovator of the Pep Guardiola.
Oh right, okay. So was he like a Van Dijk or a Vidic? You know,
I think it was more in the middle. But I don't think when I asked him if he was like a rock solid centre back, I don't think he wants to give me a proper answer.
Oh right, okay.
But yeah.
Well, there we go.
And
so
it does upset me that he's better
than me. You don't have to think about the loss and the ensuing doom that is towards Southampton FC. You can think about Tizard's dad running around the pitch like, to quote Mikey, Ryan Shawcross. Okay, right. So thank you very much for this.
He should have got an England call up, right? Ryan Shawcross.
Let me get there.
He had his England career destroyed by Zlatan Ibrahimovic in about 5 minutes, so you know.
Quickly do the socials. So will we do a quiz, Tiz? I don't know if you're going to integrate. Well, not a quiz. Questions for the quiz, or is there?
Yeah, we'll do questions, but just because we'll have it off the back of this.
And then we can,
So if it works, it'll be on SaintsPrime Instagram.
Yeah, you made a promise of when it's going out. When did you say? Can you remember?
No, Mikey made a promise that I was going to do. I never made this promise.
Okay, so when can they expect the story for it?
When I remember, so probably late Wednesday night, about 11:30 p.m.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look out for that then, and then we're on Twitter as well. Basically,
SaintsPrime
put the notifications on. You'll get a notification as soon as the podcast go live. I'll literally put it straight on there. Links straight to your favourite podcasting platform. We go straight there. Apart from that, it's on the YouTube if you want to look at our ugly mugs talking as well. We do a video one so you can see us. Mikey's got a lovely little scarf this week. Yeah,
he's one of the fans that kept it.
So,
he's one of the fans that kept his scarf.
Can that be my Christmas present?
That can be your Christmas
I'll be
present.
back for Christmas. I'll be back in Southampton for Christmas, so I can.
There's a scarf for everyone on stage.
I really thought I was going to win a giveaway for a ticket today.
Wait,
so
you can put the scarf on your really boring wall behind you.
You can staple it.
I've got a scarf.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but the thing is, like, in my background, we say this every week, but I've got a Saints poster there. I've got things in my background. Yours literally looks like a prison.
I'm trying to find something appropriate because
I've got my England curtains.
Yeah.
Basically, at my university.
It's nice of you to leave about a quarter of a baked beans can in the side of the photo as well. That's quite nice of you to do.
Wait, is there?
Yeah, in your little left-hand side corner, it says KED. I'm assuming that's baked beans.
Wait,
is it?
What? I can't see
in front of you. The green thing.
The blue and green thing. This is rubbish for the podcast. We'll talk about it afterwards. Thank you very much.
There. But anyway, what I was going to say is, like, for my background, there's at my university they were they were selling posters, but there was weirdly enough there was no Southampton related ones in Derby or any football ones.
Yeah.
Or like the best one was like a panda just eating some bamboo.
See, they had them. They had that at my place as well, but they were all like movies and stuff. I don't really watch too many movies, and I don't really have too many places to put them. But anyway, that's enough of uni room interiors.
We've gone on for one there a little bit.
If people want to send me stuff to put on my, that probably isn't a good idea.
Like anyone's going to send.
If people want to send me stuff to put on my room, we'll put my PO.
Just could just put his address on Twitter and people can send it to whatever they want. Anyway, right. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next time.
What an